Welcome to Public Power Underground, Northwest's premier weekly infotainment program that covers Northwest public power and public power adjacent news. Our series began as an awkward forced fun time for the power department 50 weeks ago when we altered our work arrangements at the start of an ongoing pandemic. It has evolved into a forum to chat with public power professionals about niche topics that are entertaining to an extremely small group of electric utility enthusiasts. And if you're listening to this, that means you. On today's show, we'll get an update on Northwest power markets with Arin Reports, talk to RMG Financial's Reid Grossman about credit fallout from February's extreme winter event, talk to Snohomish County PUD's Brian Booth about electric rate design, and cover a few other public power and public power adjacent news topics, including some late breaking news from PPC's Tenney, Denison. I'm the navigator of the underground, Paul Dockery. Brian is on vacation, so I'm taking the hosting duties this week. We're welcoming back a returning champion, special guest co-host, the publisher of Wire to Wire, PPC's Karen Heim. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Paul. Glad to be back, coming to you live from the PPC office this time. So if you've never been here, this is what our walls look like.
They're wonderful walls. It's a wonderful bookshelf. I have bookshelves in the back, too.
Everyone can get on down here at some point when we finally can get back together.
We've had a marathon morning of an executive committee meeting. You did a great job. Thank you for all of your moderation. And I did not bother you in the chat this week.
I saw that.
We are joining us today is, again, the co-star of Public Power Underground, the star of Arin Reports, financial analyst Arin Guillory. Howdy, Arin.
Hey, Paul. How's it going? Glad to be back this week.
Yeah. You have a good vacation last week?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Sort of. It was good. It was fine.
Gotta take some time off every once in a while. I'm glad you did.
You do, even for just kind of relaxing and hanging out. Thanks.
That's the way to do it. Our other co-star of Public Power Underground, the coding wizard of R and Python, our resident Genesis apprentice, a Reddit user, banjolele virtuoso, trained linguist, a Dark Age of Camelot mending pacifying healer, holder of 8 Stack Overflow badges, and current power analyst, Ian the Neural Network Bledsoe. Thanks for being here, Ian.
Thanks, Paul. Small update on the Stack Overflow front. I have since completed my bio on Stack Overflow and received another bronze badge. And I'm also looking forward to Brian Booth's interview because I'm wondering if you asked him about his Dark Age of Camelot credentials.
Oh, I did
Live
not.
updates here. Well done, Ian.
Did not. So, given your new bronze badge, can you now upvote in Stack Overflow?
Yes, I can.
Congratulations.
Nice. Congratulations.
That is awesome. I'm very happy for you and really for all of us because now we can upvote all the stuff. We're starting this week checking in on power market indicators in the Northwest with our first segment, Arin Reports. Go to you, Arin.
Great. This is Arin Reports, where we try to get up to speed on Northwest market indicators for March 4th, 2021. I'm Arin Guillory, and I've got your market update for the week. April-September flows at the Dalles are expected to be at 95% of normal, down 4% from last week. Outflow at the Dalles peaked over the past week at 166 and 3 KCFS on February 25th at 1800 hours. Midday elevation at Grand Coulee on March 3rd was 1275.5, down a half foot since reported last week as outflows increased from a peak of 139 KCFS on February 24th at 0800 hours to peak outflow of 145.20 KCFS on March 3rd at 0800 hours. Checking in on the snow in the region using Ansergy's aggregation of basin data, the snow water equivalent for BC hydro generation basin is 121 and 66% normal for Mid-C, 108, 40%. And aggregating all the snow in the Columbia River Basin that'll flow through Bonneville Dam, they estimate there is a 119.17% of normal snow blanket. Spot market power in the Northwest for delivery March 4th is at $24.50 with gas at $2.69 per MMBTU, translating to a spark spread of $5.66 and a heat rate of 9,400. In term markets, balance of the month for Mid-C has increased to $28.66 per megawatt hour, a $6 per megawatt hour lift since a week ago. Mid-C power for quarter 3 2021 is at $71.40 with Sumas gas at $2.93, translating to a heat rate of 24,400. In bond markets yesterday, when Washington PUD issued electric revenue and refunding bonds with 53.555 million due between 2022 and 2040, with average interest rates of 3.88% and yields of 165 bips, and a term bond for 3.905 million due in 2045 at a 4% interest rate yielding 263 bips. Spending a beat at Bonneville's balancing authority. Peak load this past week was 8091 on February 26 at 7:40 in the AM. During load's peak, hydrogen was at 9,403, wind gen was at 2,711 megawatts, conventional units at 669, and nuclear was at 1154. This week in NOAA climate forecast, the 6 to 10 day outlook has temp in the region with a 70% chance of being below normal, while precipitation has a 40% chance of being above. Some likelihood of below average temperature in the region stays in their outlook through the 90-day report. And that's all we've got for this update. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Arin. That was wonderful. We will say Ian did a great job while you were gone, but it is no substitute for Arin on Arin Reports.
Yeah, Arin is lightning through that.
One of the interesting things this week was the wind gen during the loads peak on February 26th. You can see that the hydro didn't have to perform as much because there was so much wind on the system. For the report, Arin. Next up is our weekly walkthrough of Northwest Public Power and Public Power adjacent news in a segment we like to call Public Power Desktop.
All right, I get to kick this one off this week. So APPA is profiling women in high voltage trades in their Public Power Current newsletter as a part of their commemoration of Women's History Month. What? The newsletter profiled several women from across the country, including a profile of Seattle City Lights' Sherry Rice, who started as a flagger, completed 2 apprenticeships, and has been a constructor for 16 years. When asked what advice Rice has for other women wanting to enter the skilled high voltage trades, she said apprenticeships are the best path. If you want to learn, earn college credit, make a stable, livable wage with benefits and retirements, it is the way to go, she said. Rice also said that public power utilities can do a number of things to support bringing more women into high voltage trades. Publications like Public Power Now help, going out to high schools, job fairs, and outreach programs, and start talking to your daughters, nieces, and neighbors, she said. Check, check, and check, Sherry. To read the rest of the profiles, you can find it in the March 1st edition of the newsletter. And if you aren't signed up for Public Power Current, let us know and we can point you in the right direction.
Check, check, and check.
Yes.
Talk to your daughters, nieces, and sisters. What was the other one?
Neighbors.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
Neighbors. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, next story is the Texan utility cooperative Brazos Electric filed for bankruptcy this week after receiving $2.1 billion of charges from ERCOT and other power suppliers. Clifton Carney, the co-op's GM, and until recently an ERCOT board member, issued a statement saying, before the severe cold weather that blanketed Texas with sub-freezing temperatures, Brazos Electric was in all respects a financially robust, stable company with a clear vision for its future and a strong A to A+ credit rating. Carney was a member of the ERCOT board in 2011 when FERC published a report urging Texas to winterize its power grid following a severe cold snap that year. The 357-page report detailed 9 separate findings that detailed what happened inside their power grid during the winter storm, a storm that also left millions without power. Brazos Electric, in its court filings, claims the ERCOT wholesale market will see $55 billion in charges resulting from the week-long winter storm, which it said would be 4 years worth of charges from a single week. For more information, see the article at www.powermag.com. To digest the information, we invited the president of RMG Financial and friend of the Underground, Reid Grossman, to talk to us.
Welcome to Public Power Underground, Reid.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Ian. How are you?
We're doing great. How's the pandemic life treating you? Isolation, hibernation?
You can see that for yourself.
You look great. You look healthy. You look like you're doing great. I love your bookshelf.
Older, fatter, slower, but we're all surviving. Thankfully, knock on wood, and hopefully we'll get vaccines soon and can all go back to our normal lives, which would be a welcome change from all this.
Very welcome.
Get some sun, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So you haven't had the vaccine yet, I assume, because you're in the young and healthy age bracket. Is that correct?
I'm about to turn next week. I'm going to turn 62, believe it or not. It's hard for me to believe. And so I'm not over 65. And so I'm just a guy, I guess. I don't know. We'll see.
You're in the same bracket as the rest of us. It sounds like we're going to get some vaccine dosages.
We're all thrown in there together.
We're going to get it. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What are we here to talk about, Ian?
We found an article about Brazos Electric Co-op filing bankruptcy, and we're wondering if the dominoes are about to fall in Texas.
And I happen to have their filing right here in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, wanting to get out from under these massive bills is probably something a lot of other Texas utilities are looking at.
Yeah.
And the other question is, how far is it going to ripple? You know, these utilities that are declaring, or the trading counterparties, they trade in a lot of areas. What happens if more utilities follow suit and file bankruptcy? And I'm not sure I'm even smart enough to answer the really good questions. So if you have any smart questions to answer, please do so as well.
They're all smart questions, right? They used to tell me that there's no dumb questions, but I put that to the test all the time.
Yeah.
Ian's the smart one with all the smart questions.
Yeah, that's it. So the answer is so first of all, this is a huge mess, right? This is an enormous mess. And I've read lots of different things in the media in the last couple of days, and one of them said $20 billion. I think it's going to be a lot, probably more than that, and maybe significantly more. But there's going to be lots and lots of winners and losers in this deregulated market, in this crazy situation that we've come into. And there'll be some that are winners and losers. So if you make a lot of money, but you have credit defaults and no one pays you, what good is that?
Right.
But on the one side, there's of course there's ERCOT, which is more just a pass through, but they're still short a couple of $1 billion because companies like Brazos, are saying, well, we're just going to file because they don't have whatever was 108 billion was what they were being asked for. And while the other creditors from Brazos are probably not very happy with Brazos, I mean, what are you going to do? They have to protect their members, and so that's the course they're going to take. Lots of other municipal utilities and co-ops and the retail guys and anyone who was producing oil and gas in the Permian Basin, all that got shut down because they hadn't weatherized their equipment. All of those players are going to get hit. And then some of the trading companies, depending on what side of this you're on, are either going to take a big bath, or they're going to make a fortune, or they could make a fortune on one part of it and lose on another part. They may not get paid because of bankruptcies and whatnot. It's just a huge mess. Some of the other counterparties that are going to get hit, of course, are the utilities, and we're already seeing from the 10Ks that there was a spattering, if you will. That's probably bad word to use, but there was a flurry, if you will, of 10Ks issued on Friday, and among others, Exelon said, and they didn't say losses; they used the word impact, but there's going to be an impact on their financials for the first quarter of between 570 and I have notes.
Appreciate the notes for sure.
710,
not for me, because I know exactly what you're talking about. But for our listeners, what is a 10K?
Oh, the 10K is the annual filing to the SEC for every year. So you get more information from not only from their financials, but the footnotes tend to be more detailed. So you get a better picture of what's going on with the company when you're reading their 10K. So we look for that. And of course, you guys know this, but we do financial analysis, so counterparty credit reviews and underwriting as part of the services we provide. So we read these 10Ks every year and have for the last 30 years. But something that we look forward to. But at any rate, so some of that information is going to come out in the footnotes of some of the 10Ks that are being issued, and we're looking forward to seeing that. But the utilities are going to take a hit, and companies that have generation within ERCOT that were shut down. I mean, even the coal piles froze, right? So even the coal generation was down. And so pretty much all the utilities are suspect, and they're probably all going to take some kind of hit. And so for instance, there was one company that we know of that took a hit from Brazos, but on the other hand, they had gas storage, so they could sell their gas. Natural gas was going as high as $179 a MMBTU, for a very short term. So those are crazy prices. And ERCOT the ceiling on ERCOT was $9,000 a megawatt. Imagine that. And
I can't.
so
It's too big. I cannot imagine it.
I really can't. It's
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, even in the energy crisis in California, the cap was, I believe, was lower than that. But at any rate, the one group that really is going to get impacted by this is the public. And there's, of course, the public's already been hit. There have been stories of people whose accounts, they had direct withdrawal and their bill was $17,000, $18,000, and it was just taken out of their account. And so those people are going to be affected. But, and not to be against regulation, but in many cases when this sort of event happens, whether it's in the Great Recession in banking or this sort of event now, we have tended to, this is my opinion, you can have a different one if you'd like, I don't mean to be political, but we've tended to privatize gains in the deregulated markets and socialize losses. And so if companies declare bankruptcy, and not to say all the losses will be socialized, right? There are companies like Exelon who are taking losses. But if companies go bankrupt, if the ERCOT doesn't collect all the money that it needs to, it's going to pass that through to its members, and they're going to raise rates. And these individuals who are being charged $17,000, they didn't realize that was coming. It may have been their responsibility to read the fine print, but few residential customers would do that or even have the ability to understand it. So the public's going to be hurt, and everyone's at risk, and it's not just large companies. The one thing that another thing that we're seeing is that there are some companies that have come out early and said we made a boatload of money, and that's just politically
not wise.
Not wise thing to do. No.
Yeah.
And they're already seeing backlash on that. So, but it's just a huge mess, and there will be lots of spillover. Large companies like Shell or Exelon or whoever can absorb several billion-dollar loss if it comes to that, but small companies can't. And if you lose $250 million in your trading company, that's not a good day, or even it doesn't have to be that large. And so there will be a lot of shakeout, and we're sort of, we're like we're not really referees, but we're on the sidelines watching as analysts to determine sort of how this will all shake out. The one group that will do well in this, as always, are the lawyers. The bankruptcy lawyers will be able to put their children and all the other children in the neighborhood through, Harvard. And this is going to be litigated for years.
Definitely.
And nothing against them. That's their business, and they do well. They are very good attorneys who deserve what their fees. But this is, a huge breakthrough.
One of the things you mentioned is you compared it to the California energy crisis in 2001. Do you think it'll have as far-reaching implications? Is that a good comp for what just happened in Texas?
It's interesting, and you can compare this to the fires in California too, and they're not the same. There are similarities, definitely, but they're not the same. So this is a weather event, much like fires weren't necessarily a weather event, but still it was a short-term event.
Yeah.
And it was more localized, more in Northern California. This is a larger geographic region. It would be like all of California, but it's still a short-term event, a weather event. Unlike in the energy crisis in California, that went on for some time, and it shifted the whole forward curve. That literally, instead of having the quick mean reversion that you normally see from things like this, the entire forward curve for power had a structural shift upward. So the out months were high as well, and that made a huge difference to all the calculations of market and whatnot.
So if we're looking for comps for credit purposes, maybe closer in a comp to like the wildfires last year in California than the 2001 energy crisis, for a credit comp and the impact on credit markets and counterparty credit.
Well, so it'll play out more quickly, but the size and scope of it is large enough that there could be as many winners and losers. In the energy crisis, in 2001, this is another point we'll get to in a second, but in the energy crisis in 2001, a lot of companies failed. Mirant failed, Utilicorp failed. There were lots of those failures. And not long before then, the utilities that had built up large trading and merchant shops had spun out their trading and merchant shops, which had all had gotten large, high credit ratings from the rating agencies, in some case higher than the underlying utilities. And they all, not all of them, but a number of them went bankrupt for one reason or another during or just after the energy crisis in California. And it played out over a little longer period of time. On the other hand, we note that Exelon has just last week announced that it's planning to split itself up into the SpinCo, which is going to be, quote unquote, which will be their merchant operation, and the old co, I think they call it, which is their utilities. So they've spent 19 years putting that company together. I mean, they were one of our first clients 19 years ago. And now they're breaking it back up. And so we're seeing some of that happening again. And we're, as analysts, we're wondering sort of how this will play into what the future holds for the industry at large. And it may be that structurally the industry needs to rearrange itself. And so this might be prompting some of that. We'll see.
Yeah, but I think we're running out of time, but thank you for coming on and talking about it. It's the credit implications of this, I think, are going to impact even us up here in the Northwest. NAPCO is an annual conference Ian usually attends. Do I need to send him this year, or when do you think he'll be going to NAPCO again?
Well, NAPCO usually has 2 meetings a year.
Okay, well, I probably paid for both of them. That's a good point.
We haven't here lately because of COVID, and NAPCO's still here, but unfortunately COVID is as well. And so we're not sure that we can do a September meeting, although we'd like to, but a lot of companies just aren't allowing people to travel. We're thinking that perhaps February will be a more likely date, but keep us on your calendars or on your Outlook. We'd love to see Ian, and frankly, I would like to get together with everybody, even regionally, but I think that COVID's going to be in the way probably for September, but we're still here and there's still lots of interest, and we'd still like to have another meeting here as soon as we can, but we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Well, I hereby
somewhere warm.
I hereby deem you
warm.
a friend of the underground. So thank you for being a friend of the underground.
Of course. Anytime.
And we'll have you back soon. Okay. If that's okay with you. Are you willing to come back?
Of course,
and talk
anytime. I can talk as long as you're willing to listen, I guess.
I love it. And I may have to cut a little bit of it out. That'll be okay, right?
Of course.
Love it. Thanks, Reid.
All right, on March 2nd, BPA kicked off its Integrated Program Review 2, commonly referred to as IPR2 workshop at 1 p.m. with about 114 participants. BPA CFO Michelle Maneri started out the presentation talking about safety with 14 great hiking tips that we can all appreciate. And for firsthand recommendations for great hiking, we nominate Gian Francisco, CEO of NRU. IPR2 focused on project modeling, the Vancouver Control Center, and the impacts of the Columbia River System Operations Environmental Impact Statement, CRSO EIS. Michelle Cathcart, VP of System Operations for BPA's Transmission Business Unit, walked us through BPA's purposes for having a control center in Vancouver in the first place, including supporting their ability to fulfill NERC responsibilities, among other things. The current building is well past its depreciated value, according to BPA's records, in consideration of its age and remodel requirements to maintain adherence to codes. BPA indicated this, as well as increasing construction costs, to be impetuses for plans to build a new VCC. More review to come here, including potential lease purchase and other financing options. Some good news that led to no questions was that BPA will not be seeking additional funding from IPR related to the Fish and Wildlife Program. BPA emphasized again that the agency is not on track to maintain its goal of the 1.5 billion available borrowing authority driven by the net borrowing by the Transmission Business Unit. Comments surrounding IPR2 topics can be submitted between March 3rd and 24th. BPA will post responses to questions and comments early to mid-April. BPA anticipates finishing the IPR2 process with a closeout report by April 30th. The workshop ended at 3:35 p.m., a full and appreciated 25 minutes early after a full 2 hours and 35 minutes of presentation.
Absolutely. It was a very full presentation. They did a good job. My takeaway, and I think it is fairly widely shared, is that Bonneville seems a little tone deaf when they talk about their financial goals and the need to maintain $1.5 billion of buffer on their borrowing authority. I don't think my perspective is unique in that. And in fact, there may have been comments using that specific terminology by someone at PPC's executive committee to John Harrison, the administrator, this morning. So it's, I think, something he addressed and was questioned head on.
Yeah, and we aim to keep it fresh, so.
You do.
Yeah.
I think your executive committee chairs have a tendency of being good at keeping things fresh. It's like
Yes, very
good
much,
representation on that in that chairperson's role.
very much so.
Okay, moving on. Who's next?
All right, up to me. Dan Catchbull covered Idaho Power's 2020 earnings report in the most recent edition of Clearing Up and highlighted their customer growth over the past year. According to Dan's reporting, the utility customer base grew 2.7% to nearly 590,000, which helped the company post strong earnings despite the pandemic. Idaho Power's load growth aligns with anecdotal evidence we've all heard over the course of the pandemic and a phenomenon we've talked about here before on Public Power Underground, which is a realignment of residents as optionality to work remotely increases with a prioritization on affordable living and outdoor space. For more on Idaho Power's earning results and a presentation by their executives on their February 18th earnings call, or to see similar articles about PGE's and Avista's 2020 earnings, check out Clearing Up's issue number 1993.
What did you like? Did you like my sentence about the realignment? What was it? That was a good sentence.
That was a good one.
It was wordy. It was wordy.
Realignment of residents as optionality to work remotely increases. So
yeah,
true.
you think that's? I mean, that's my anecdotal takeaway of the realignment. Are you seeing similar things, Karen
I
and Aaron?
agree. I know for us, we had always talked about possibly, having a telework policy, and then obviously the pandemic just made it happen. And now moving forward, we have a new policy with more flexibility because now it's been proven that we can do this going forward. So
yeah, we can do it.
we can do it.
We can do it. Now, like you both live in Portland. Do you see people maybe I shouldn't even bring age into it, but are colleagues and peers thinking of moving to places not Portland?
Not in my circle, just to be very straightforward. I mean, a lot of the people, I don't know, the people in my circle seem to be pretty content with either being right outside on the outskirts of Portland or appreciating working from home and just, funding their rent from that perspective and not really being too worried about utility bill increases. Yeah, I mean, I actually have a few friends that are looking to move inside Portland. It's just excessively competitive
to get the housing.
Everything Aaron said. That's just kind of how it is. So yeah.
Do you think so there's value from working remotely in the not commute, and there's value in working remotely from optionality to live somewhere else? So in your peer group, is it you really like the working from home because you don't have the commute?
My peer group, personally, yes. So you don't have to commute, like you said, and then it just offers more flexibility as far as, if you need to go outside and take a walk in your neighborhood, it's much easier to do rather than I'm in the office right now, so in my city blocks, which aren't quite as picturesque or escaping for me.
Nice. Welcome to Public Power Underground, Aaron. Thanks for agreeing to do a guest lead for us. Well. It's going to be great. Kick it off.
I interrupted you like 5 times there.
Yeah, we're rolling with it. You got this.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna kick off then. So on March 1st, PPC hosted a carbon forum for members in BPA to discuss the benefits and risks of BPA opting to have its resources deemed delivered to California in the CAISO's Energy Imbalance Market. That's the EIM. If a resource is deemed delivered to California load, the resource owner is compensated for the carbon attributes of its resource, while California gets to claim those attributes. Because the federal system is marketed by BPA as primarily hydropower, it has a very low carbon content and a higher value in markets like the EIM that value carbon attributes. However, market design flaws in the EIM create situations where low carbon resources like hydropower are deemed delivered to California, and higher emitting resources like coal are dispatched to backfill for them. These issues arise because carbon policies largely do not align across jurisdictional boundaries like states, and market operators are forced to try and optimize separately for energy dispatch and carbon allocation. And BPA staff acknowledges these issues. They also presented analysis they believe showed selling directly to California in the EIM would outweigh the costs. And a concern for public power is that BPA's participation in the EIM and decision to be deemed delivered to California will lead to dirtying the federal system. And in the future, many of BPA's customers will have carbon compliance obligations of their own and could be impacted by higher carbon content in the federal system. BPA staff indicated they believe the decision to be deemed delivered to California would not be a one-time deal, and BPA and customers could revisit the issue going forward based on future experience and analysis. To learn more, BPA is hosting a public workshop to further address the issue on March 16th. You can find the meeting announcement through the tech forum notice or on BPA's calendar of events. If you'd like to be involved in the public power and BPA carbon forums in the future, please reach out to me. It's Arin Bush, abush@ppcpdx.org.
This will be a topic of future carbon forums. So will we revisit this and continue to monitor the CAISO? Because it sounds like CAISO is going to continue to evaluate their the way they treat greenhouse gases as through the EDAM initiative, right?
Yeah. I mean, like Laura Trelease mentioned in the meeting, I mean, this is, an issue that keeps getting pushed back because there isn't an obvious solution to it, especially with all the challenges across different states doing different things.
Yeah.
I think that, when we talk about kind of how PPC might weigh in on this issue, BPA's analysis is really just a first look. And so we'll really want to be seeing kind of where that might be headed. And I think there were some good points raised about where there's leverage in conversations with the CAISO.
A lot of really technical things, and it's one of the reasons I value PPC, and a lot of us in the region do, is because there's a lot of depth to these issues, and we need help synthesizing those deep issues into things that we can actually implement as consider as policies. So thanks for joining. Yeah. Please come back. I love this guest lead idea. We're going to keep doing it. Please come back and do it again.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Good to chat. Appreciate you.
The Northwest River Forecast Center hosted its monthly water supply briefing this morning, the main tale of which was that water supply in the northern basin, which is generally Canada and its environs, is slightly above normal, and the southern region is below normal, the southern region being the Snake plus other places that we don't care about. The April through September natural water supply forecast at the Dalles is unchanged from last month. Total year runoff is at 92% of normal, down from 94% last year, which is a little strange since snow has continued to build since last month, and February had higher than normal precipitation. Even though it's forecast to rain in much of the basin over the next 10 days, which is one of the model inputs, the forecast is still below normal, which seems to be what's driving the forecast down. The 3-month precipitation outlook is about even money for above or below normal in the basin. The next water supply briefing is scheduled for April 1st.
So I really don't, the Northwest River Forecast Center's April to September is still well below normal. All of the fundamental indicators seem that this is a fairly normal year to above normal. And I just don't get it, Ian. Do you get it?
Nope, I don't.
So we will not be applying for their hydrologist job opening is really what I'm taking away.
I don't anticipate that I will apply, but I don't know about Arin.
We used to do a segment on open jobs in the region. We've not done that in a while. We should probably circle back, but it looks like they are looking for hydrologists. If you have a hydrologist in your life, please let them know.
We are rate structure enthusiasts at Public Power Underground and like to chat with similarly geeky rate professionals from around the region. This week, we got a chance to speak with Snohomish County PUD's Senior Manager of Rates, Economics, and Energy Risk Management, Brian Booth, about a revision to their rate structure that bases the base charge off of a customer's service size. If you have a rate enthusiast in your life, please pass along this show and Paul's contact information. Paul wants to be their friend.
Hey, Brian, welcome to Public Power Underground.
Hey, Paul, it's good to be here.
Now, I'm really curious. What is your consumption level? I don't know if you really know what to expect on being with the Underground or not.
My consumption level is pretty small. I've watched a episode of the Underground.
You watched the Garrison episode, didn't you?
I did. That one came through
Garrison.
on like our CorpCom newsletter. So I sat down and watched it and thought, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, he is an all-star. You guys are really lucky to have him. Also really lucky to have you. I don't want to undersell you.
Well, thank you. I will try to oversell myself to compensate.
Yeah, you got a nice setup there. You got a really nice camera, some books in the bookcase. Any book on there that you want to pull off and tell us that we should read about rates? Because I am looking for books on rates.
These books are entirely props to make you think that I may have read some of them. If you could see the titles, you'd be less impressed.
But have you, though? So that's unimpressive. But any recommendations for books on rates? Because you're a rate enthusiast like I am.
Yeah, books on rates. I'm trying to think back. I probably still have a couple from my college days. Some like
took books. You had rates in college?
Yeah. So one of my professors at PSU was Mike Katz. He was a retired Oregon PUC commissioner. And he was awesome, right? I mean,
okay.
He had just the best anecdotes you can imagine.
I can imagine a lot of
some
great
of
anecdotes.
which would be less appropriate for being on the air, but like some of the gamesmanship between the PUC and the IOUs over how they would actually set the rate increases, like the sort of shopping you imagine. The IOUs come in with some massive increase, and then the PUC gets to look like heroes by chopping it down to what the number really should be.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you expect behind the scenes.
Okay. I mean, we don't want to talk about it too much, though, right? It's one of those things. It's great for a college course. Little too on the edge for public.
I'm giving away people's secrets for sure.
For sure, it's definitely a secret. Snohomish PUD's got a new rate base charge coming into your power rates. I think it's in, I want to say April of 2021, so it's coming up.
Yeah, that's right. It is scheduled for April, although I think we're probably going to punt it out by a year. We've already punted out the commercial redesign work we were doing just due to the pandemic.
Yeah, that seems really reasonable.
Yeah, tweaking people's power bills right now is probably not the most important thing we need to be doing. So
yeah,
hoping to do a 1-year punt and then get back on it.
It sounds like your structure really isn't any incremental revenue generation. It's more about a restructuring of rates. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. Remodeling. Everybody likes remodeling, right?
Yeah.
But you've got it exactly right. We're just shifting a little bit of money out of our variable energy rate and getting it into a fixed daily service charge. Right now, we're the only utility in the state of Washington I'm aware of that does not have a fixed charge for residences, and we're trying to get away from that.
Yeah, I like the kind of the way I see rates, and I never took courses on rates, so you can correct me. I was an engineer though, and the way I think about the service we provide is the service, which is the connection, which is fixed, a lot of just fixed costs that you got to allocate. Power, like we're providing power and energy, which are different things.
That's right.
Energy is the integral of power over time. Right, Brian?
That's right. Yeah, I like to think of it as, it's all about like capacity and fuel, right? You got to build a generator big enough to meet that peak capacity, but then the cost to actually run it is your fuel cost. So if you want a backup generator for your house, whether you want a 5 kW or a 10 kW one, that's a linear cost. That 10 kW costs a lot more than the 5 kW, right?
Right.
But
exactly.
It doesn't cost you anything just sitting there. Then you've got a fuel cost that's your kilowatt hour charge to actually run the thing.
And the fuel for the energy. The energy is a separate component than the power. It's one of those rabbit holes I could go down all day. But it sounds like you're going to the base charge and you've thought about it as service capacity. Am I right here?
That's exactly right. We've tried to break it up between what a small consumer might need in terms of equipment to serve them. What's it take? Equipment from the distribution going down the street to their meter to actually keep their lights on.
And so there's service panels. It depends on like if so I have a residence, I have a 200 amp panel. So do I get a smaller base charge because of my smaller panel size?
Smaller, but not the smallest. We've got it
Okay.
broken down into 4 tiers. So
Okay.
we've got the smallest, which is like multifamily. It'd be an add-on meter, like if you put a garage next to your house or something like that.
Okay.
Then we've got our medium size, which is going to be 90% of single family homes. So up to a 200 amp panel for your house.
Okay.
From there, we go to large, which could be up to 400 amps, and then extra large that's over 400 amps.
Over 400 amps, you need CT metering instead of just the regular enclosed meter,
That's right. So we've looked at both the cost of the meter. Bigger meters cost bigger money, especially once you get into CTs. We've also looked at the service drop costs. Number 2 wire will serve a 200 amp panel. You step it up to 1 aught for a 400 amp panel, and then you need 3 aught or start paralleling multiple strings above that. So it's just more copper, more dollars.
More allocation of your system too, right? Because if you have to serve this, 600 amp load, you have to allocate. It seems just to allocate more of my distribution system to somebody with greater service, because they have the ability to use more of my service, right?
That's exactly right. So the last part of that, which was, I'm pretty proud of how we were able to pull all this all together, is allocating transformer costs.
Okay.
From our system, we were actually able to map out, here's all of the service panel sizes we know versus all of the transformers that they're plugged into. So we're able to see some of those relationships and see, yeah, we've got bigger transformers that are serving these larger panels, or they're shared among fewer customers, right? You don't have 6 customers with 400 amp panels all sharing a 25 kW transformer. They're sharing a 75 kW transformer.
Dude, you know the topics I love. This is geospatial analysis. So do you guys must have, because Garrison, when he was on, talked about the geospatial analysis they're doing in their integrated resource plan. You guys have like an awesome team of geospatial, like GIS analysts that help you, or you do this on your own?
So we've got a couple of departments I should probably give shout outs to. Our GIS folks are excellent. And our customer analytics team, the purely data crunchers who maintain, these HANA models are just the best.
Yeah, it is. I think we under promote the value of GIS and geospatial data as utilities. You guys seem to have leveraged it really well. I think you guys may be like a benchmarking the use of that data. I love what you're doing.
We're definitely on the cutting edge of some of this stuff. We have a DER, a distributed energy resource planning engineer, and a DER program that this person oversees, right? So
That's great.
We're trying to analyze, what we can actually do at the individual feeder level to try to, offset our costs into the future. Maybe we could be looking at, locational, promotions for solar or storage. Maybe we could be looking at locational marginal pricing. What is it we can do to, solve some of our system constraints without having to put new steel in the ground?
Yeah, I love it. One area I wanted to pitch you on, and I probably running out of time today, but I have this idea I've been noodling around, and it's like per peak power charges, which is some ways like I really want to rebrand demand charges to peak power rates instead of demand rates, because I think that makes more sense.
And I think more people would get the nomenclature on that, right? When you say peaking, people get, oh yeah, this means something to me.
Yeah.
Demand, I'm less
like
sure
what is
about that.
demand? Like it's
Right.
I don't like that term. But my issue I'm trying to solve are really electric vehicle charging at home. I have an electric vehicle, and I've thought through my behavior on charging when I get home, and I've thought through what price signal I would need to change my behavior. So here's the thing. If you give me a demand charge, just a monthly demand charge on my residential bill, in my head, I'm going to be like, well, if I use it once, if I charge my car at the same time that my water heater is on once a month, I might as well do it the rest of the month, because I'm not going to save any money. So I thought, is there any way to do a per peak demand charge or a per peak power rate? So that every day I get a price signal. If I just don't do it today, if for today I can plug into 110 instead of 240, I can save $1. What do you think? You think there's a way to do this? And should we come back and talk about it again? Maybe
it's probably worth more of a dive. I will say that the effect is probably pretty similar to time of day energy rates, right?
I hate time of day energy rates, though. I hate time of day energy rates. So I'm gonna float this. Hadn't thought of this. We have not prepared. What do you think about a public power underground after dark with some people, other rate geeks like us? Do you know some rate geeks that would love to dive into this concept? Because
I do know some rate geeks.
Okay, you're my rate geek friend, so we got to work on more rate geeks.
Yeah, we'll get you tied in here.
Maybe we can sit around, have a beer, talk rates, and you guys can really make fun of my idea, and I can make fun of time of use energy rates.
Yeah, the residential demand charges are they're not that common, but they do seem to be becoming more common. Like I know SRP has, they have put in a residential demand charge that goes hand in hand with their net metering customers. Was talking with a utility out of Florida last year that had been shifting to residential demand charges. But I think they were just doing it at the monthly level rather than try to get into that daily level. And like you say, give people an incentive every day to try to keep their peaks down.
So I think demand for commercial customers at a monthly level probably makes more sense because it's just business operations, and you got to think about just your business operations, and you can probably optimize processes. But for residential customers, I have this sense of my own choices that I'm not going to make that choice to optimize my monthly demand. I'm just going to continue my behavior. But if I had a daily, that just for today, I can change my behavior because of some circumstance.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Well, think about it.
We'll come back. We'll do this again. I like this idea. I'm really interested. Right. Thank you for being a friend of the Underground. I got to get you to subscribe, though, so that you can watch more of our content. I really think you'll enjoy it.
Will do. Thank you, Paul.
Yep. Talk to you later. Breaking news on Public Power Underground. Hello, Lauren. Welcome back, or welcome to Public Power Underground. I don't think you've been on here yet.
I haven't. Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here.
I am very excited. We have breaking news. What's the breaking news?
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me to do this breaking news lead. SPP unveiled a Market Plus concept at PPC's Member Forum on Wednesday, March 4th. So SPP's invitation to the Members Forum, that was a result of strategic direction from PPC's executive committee to focus on markets as a potential revenue source as a means to improve BPA's competitiveness. The Members Forum began with a presentation by friend of the Underground and PPC's senior policy analyst, Michael Lynn. Shout out to Mike on potential revenue opportunities and the risks associated with market formation and participation. After an overview of SPP's history and market operations by SPP's Vice President of Engineering, Antoine Lucas, an overview of SPP's Western Energy Imbalance Service by SPP's Principal Operations Specialist, Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson then channeled the Steve Jobs One More Thing, where he unveiled the Market Plus concept as an alternative to the CAISO day-ahead markets in the West. The Underground hopes to dig deeper into the concept with Steve and PPC because we're sure we missed something after a full day of meetings, so check back in for more. And I can say PPC is ready to engage and looking forward to digging in deeper as well.
So I'm going to be honest. It was a long day of meetings yesterday. And I actually just kind of caught this. I was like, oh, one more thing. I wonder if they're going to pitch something. And they did. So I'm glad he did the one more thing. Do you think there's this is a really interesting topic. There was a lot of feedback of people being interested and wanting to explore this more. Where do you think will be a good venue to explore it more?
Yeah, we will definitely be talking about this more at PPC rates and contracts meetings. And I think SPP really opened the door. They're looking to engage with stakeholders. So lots more conversation to come. And like you said, Paul, I think there was a lot to digest. It's a busy time now anyway, lots going on, but an exciting announcement to see what comes next.
So much going on. Thanks for joining us, Lauren.
Thanks, Paul.
Leave the breaking news banner up, Paul. Public Power Underground is excited to unveil the Public Power Underground Anadromous Championship belt for the best friend of the Underground because they keep coming back. The belt will be conveyed to the guest who has appeared the most times on Public Power Underground, Northwest River Partners Kurt Miller led the match with 3 appearances coming into today's episode, but so sorry, Kurt. Karen's co-hosting appearance means she is tied for appearances, which means the belt remains unclaimed.
Watch out, Kurt.
Yeah, she's coming for you. It's a grudge match between Karen and Kurt for the most coveted token award in public power. Close behind Karen and Kurt are Friends of the Underground, Matt Shretnick, Megan Stratman, and Mike Lynn. Do not doubt Paul's commitment to the bit. This belt will be conveyed once a worthy Anadromous champ emerges. We want to thank Greg Mendonca and Brian Johnson for belt recommendations, and Bo Downen for teaching us how to pronounce Anadromous during his interview on last week's episode. For those
I'm not sure Arin listened to that episode, but it's okay because she was on vacation, you know? Sorry, Bo.
I mean, I've listened to that interview at least 2 or 3 times at this point. Not lying. Okay.
And you couldn't find Anadromous?
I could not. And to be frank, I expected it to be a lot more showy. Reading through the super secret lead, I thought it was going to be almost bit-like, but it was very understated and apparently read or spoken in such a way because he's, just a boss, just using that word in casual conversation.
That's what Bo does.
Just fine. That's how Bo does. So
yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, I really had to search for it.
I'm really excited about this belt.
I know. I can come back for guest things. I can study up. Who's going on vacation next?
Okay, so for those of you who tuned in for the breaking news about SPP's Market Plus concept, this is the content you should expect from Underground in the future.
Yeah.
If it's to your taste, please smash that subscribe button.
I shouldn't actually be wearing this because I am not eligible for the belt.
I was going to say something, but I didn't want to make you mad and have you move me down or not have me fight back. So.
Oh my gosh, I didn't see that you put the belt on.
Yes,
I awkwardly segued
he was
out.
modeling it. He did a very nice job.
Yeah, no, I'm probably only going to have it for a week or 2. So I got to really, I got to take advantage of it.
Oh man, does that mean Kurt and Karen are coming back on in the next couple episodes? We're going to have to award that.
We got to figure it out. Figure it out.
There will have to be some sort of a tiebreaker here. I mean, it's got to happen.
So I really had to think about this. Does there need to be a tiebreaker? I don't know. I feel like if it's tied, it's just unclaimed. I don't know. I didn't watch WWF. I actually don't know how it works.
You claim not to have watched it, but you're clearly carrying that belt like everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know where it goes, how to do it. So
I do. I do.
He's like, I might have seen some stuff sometimes.
The swagger as you walked over with that belt lets me know that you've seen a championship fight before.
I do consume pop culture, and wrestling has permeated pop culture. I just don't want to try to claim that I have the nuanced understanding of wrestling culture because I don't want to be a poser.
It's engraved, isn't it?
Oh,
it's got some.
It looks legit. Yeah, look at that.
It's the Anadromous champ.
Wow.
It's got our Public Power Underground logo. It is legit. I'm just gonna leave it right here for the rest of the time. There are gonna have to be some rules. I'm gonna have to figure out some rules. If anyone understands wrestling and wants to let me know what the rules should be, please let me know. The key to this is it's for people that keep coming back. So it's a fish. That was Greg Mendoza came up with that idea. Thank you very much. And Bo gave us the word, but Greg came up with the idea. It was great. Okay. That's it. That's all the news for the week. Send us any news, jobs, questions, opinions, or corrections to me on Twitter @APowerManager. Or if you're a friend of the Underground, send any of us a note. Any corrections from last week? Paul, that was Ian's line.
This is your chance to redeem yourself, Paul, even of that slip up. So any questions any corrections from last week?
So I figured out, thanks to Energy Twitter, that I had incorrectly referred to the price cap when ERCOT lifted the price cap. I said that it was to incentivize generators to run if they could get online. That is incorrect. Scarcity prices are meant to be a long-term price signal to build new power plants. So it was that price cap was in order to enable the development of new power plants. So I got it wrong. I probably didn't even get it right this time, which is why you should go on Energy Twitter. They're at JoshDR83 has a great thread on it that I found enlightening and corrected my prior incorrect take.
Thanks for correcting the record.
I'll do it. We'll be back next week to talk about public power and public power adjacent news, including some special celebrity appearances that I don't want to spoil and I don't want to jinx. I've done it once before and they didn't come through, so I'm not going to do that one again. To make sure you don't miss an episode, you can sign up for an unintrusive newsletter with links to all the ways to consume this fascinating content on Substack at publicpowerunderground.substack.com. Otherwise, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for being a co-host again this week, Karen. I really did appreciate it. You're great. You're a great co-host. Back. And Ken, you can come back and try to claim it.
I know, try to claim it. There will be a fight for it.
That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Public Power Underground is a pandemic diversion for entertainment purposes. It's written, edited, and produced by the Power Department. The views here expressed are our own and not the official views of Clatskanie IPUD, nor of any person or organization affiliated or doing business with Clatskanie IPUD, nor the organization of the guests also appearing on Public Power Underground. Neither Clatskanie IPUD nor those appearing on Public Power Underground generate ad revenue from the episodes. Make Karen, Arin, Lauren, Brian, and Reid feel better about their participation in this week's episode by sending them a note, text, or email with a thumbs up and telling them how much you enjoyed it. Do it for us, do it for them, and do it to make other people feel valued and appreciated. Public Power Underground, for electric utility enthusiasts. Public Power Underground, it's worth to watch.